Support WrestleTalk!
Give us a subscribe.
Thank you for being an awesome pledge hammer on Patreon. Arnie K. The K stands for the coolest dude ever. Hello and welcome to the WrestleTalk Stacked News. I am Chopper Pete Quinnell. Myself and Laurie will be covering the news today, as both Luke and Ollie are coming into the office later today to a live reaction stream of AEW's debut TV show, Dynamite. So make sure to check back here later for that. On top of that, Laurie and I will be doing our live reactions to SmackDown's debut on Fox on Friday night. Ollie and Luke will be doing their live show in Nottingham, sandwiched between a Frontline show and a WrestleGate show. And Laurie and I are back on Sunday night, bringing you our live reactions to Hell in a Cell. This is genuinely one of the busiest weeks in the history of wrestling and in the history of WrestleTalk. But now on with the content, and with Raw having its season premiere on Monday night and AEW starting up, NXT moving to USA and SmackDown moving to Fox, the wrestling world has its eye on the future. And one name we might need to be getting very, very familiar with has just been name dropped by none other than Stephanie McMahon, because it's her daughter. While doing the media rounds to promote SmackDown's move to Fox, Stephanie McMahon mentioned that her eldest daughter was already in training for an in-ring career at some point. Aurora Rose Levesque is currently 13 years old, so give it a few years and the Authority will make a grand return, but this time flanked by Aurora McMahon, who will go on to win more championships than Charlotte Flair in a shorter time period and will reinvent women's wrestling just like her mother invented it. Can't wait. Speaking of the future, and a lot of eyes are eagerly anticipating AEW Dynamite's debut show tonight. However, the build has already begun for AEW's first pay-per-view after their TV show begins, which is Full Gear on November 9th. As is now tradition, there will be a Starrcast event taking place over the Full Gear weekend, and a pretty big name has been announced for the event. WWE Hall of Famer Ron Simmons, aka Farouk, aka that one guy who turns up and says damn at random backstage segments, has been confirmed for the event, with the announcement hyping up the fact that Simmons was the first African-American world champion. Of course, he became that world champion in WCW, and now he returns for a weekend surrounding a pay-per-view of a TV show on the same network. What goes around comes around. If only there were 4 letters that could sum up this situation. Oh yeah, of course. It's Oh My! Speaking of Oh My and WCW, and after WWE bought out their top rival, they of course then owned the rights to certain things like Starrcade, the WCW footage library, and Wargames. The latter of those 3 has been used to great effect, becoming a staple of NXT, with the latest takeover Wargames coming in November. The match type itself was created by the American Dream Dusty Rhodes, but his son, who just so happens to be Executive Vice President of AEW, has shown interest in buying the rights off WWE. Speaking on a media call, he said, "Well, you mentioned Wargames, and I'm kind of sitting here thinking to myself, I'd really love to just buy it back, and I wonder if they'd be willing to let me just buy it back, because Dusty came up with the match concept on a napkin in the parking lot. Arn Anderson was there, I've got a witness. The one they do now isn't truly loyal to the old school rules of it. Maybe I can get it back." AEW Wargames confirmed. In all fairness, WWE's version of it may not be faithful to the original, but at least they've been really, really good. It's not like they've tarnished the name, which is what they've done with Starrcade. Time will only tell if Cody can get the rights to host a Wargames match, but one thing that for sure is happening is Dynamite's debut on TNT tonight. However, it's now not only just on TNT, as it's been officially announced that AEW have a Canadian TV deal as well. It's a bit late, but it's something, I guess. It was announced that AEW will be broadcast live on TSN in Canada at 8 p.m. Eastern every Wednesday night. This is a lovely, lovely deal for AEW, who continue to expand their global reach. I'm sure in time, we'll hear more and more TV deals in more and more countries across the globe. That is, of course, if Dynamite is a success. And there's one more thing that's just been announced that might help with that success, because Chris Jericho's mystery tag team partners to take on the Elite on tonight's show have been revealed as none other than Santana and Ortiz, formerly LAX. The 6 men will do battle at tonight's Dynamite debut show after the duo made their debut at All Out, attacking the Young Bucks and the Lucha Bros after their hellacious ladder match. Wait, no, sorry, it wasn't a ladder match, it was an Escalera de la Muerte match. rolls right off the tongue. And now, with the collective breath of the wrestling world bated and everyone excited for AEW's debut TV show tonight, let's switch over to Laurie to talk about WWE. See ya!
Alright then, hello, welcome to the trustworthy section of the news. And over on the WWE side of the fence, it is a very, very busy week because we've got the big Raw premiere, we've got NXT's first full 2-hour show on USA, SmackDown on Fox on Friday, Hell in a Cell on Sunday, and oh yeah, Total Divas next Tuesday too. The fall from the high highs was like, it's brutal. It's like Shane McMahon off a cell. But there has been some interesting info coming out of the promo work for WWE's now Bella-less reality TV show. One interesting tidbit was that Sonya Deville and Mandy Rose, aka Fire and Desire, had been pitching a little fire on fire desire. If you catch my, it doesn't really work, but if you get my drift. By which I mean there was a preview clip for the series that shows the two meeting with WWE producers to pitch the first ever LGBTQ storyline in the WWE. Now seemingly WWE didn't go with it, though there were hints of tension between the two back in June and speculation that WWE was brewing a romance angle of some sort. Now obviously the fact that they haven't pursued it yet doesn't mean that they won't, nor does it mean that WWE aren't down for inclusivity. The bigger issue clearly holding back Fire and Desire is that they are a women's tag team. And do they want to do anything with those? Do they because they would much rather use their ladyfolk in awkward romantic angles with Bobby Lashley. Isn't that right, Lana? Who has joined Maria Kanellis on the let's make a mockery of our actual husbands on a national television train. Or as I like to call it now, the cluster cuck. But while that end segment to Raw was more than a little weird, it did actually get some eyes on the product as this season premiere episode pulled in the best numbers since football season started. Now Raw earned itself an average 2.57 million viewers, which is up from 2.21 million last week. But it did take some doing though, didn't it? Because we had Bobby Lashley lip-locking with Lana, Brock Lesnar mincing two Mysterios, Hulk Hogan and Ric Flair shilling Saudi blood money 75 or whatever it is, and The Fiend attacking Seth Rollins, which somehow tied into all of the rest of that made no sense. Apart from the Hogan and Flair thing, it didn't really have anything to do with that. That was just about money. Which begs the question, what are they going to do next week to continue the upward momentum? Is Shawn Michaels going to be sucking face with Sasha Banks while McCarthy sews himself into a cocoon? And then The Fiend attacks. You know what, speaking of Sasha Banks, boss time might have just run out. Not only because frequent purveyor of the terrible catchphrase Michael Cole has moved to SmackDown where Sasha Banks ain't, but because if rumours are to be believed, that job may not even be permanent anyway. Cage side seats are reporting that Tom Phillips may be in line to step into the shoes of WWE's lead play-by-play commentator. Because while both SmackDown and Raw commentary teams have changed, that means that Phillips and Byron Saxton are kinda without jobs. So for now, it's thought that Phillips will just work backstage while Cole hosts SmackDown, but eventually he'll move back behind the desk at some undetermined point in the future. Now, the interesting thing is that reports don't say what Michael Cole will be moved on to in the company. So, I don't know, is he gonna retire? Is he gonna get an allotment? Take up gardening? You know, enjoy his boss time off? Maybe he could get a big dog. But before he steps away, we all need to brace ourselves for some vintage Michael Cole on SmackDown. Catchphrases for all. And speaking of catchphrases, there is nobody with a better roster of them than Rock the Dwayne Johnson, who this week confirmed that he will finally be returning to WWE to layeth the smacketh down in front of the millions and millions of Fox viewers on Friday. Now, you would have thought that The Rock would be a surprise WWE would want to keep up their sleeve for a big pop on the debut show. But then you realise why they didn't do that. Because after Rocky's tweet hit the net saying he was coming back, ticket sales for the SmackDown show, they went through the roof. Now, according to TickPick, the get-in prices for Friday's big SmackDown show have increased a staggering 87% following the announcement. The average ticket price also shot up to $116 compared to $62 before The Rock managed to electrify the card. It's almost as if the WWE haven't built any big stars like The Rock or Stone Cold since the Attitude Era. They are the last big stars. Well, not quite. There is one man One name whispered on the wind who has the cultural cachet among fans to put bums in seats. CM Punk. CM Punk. CM Punk. And as you'd imagine, for somebody who spends his entire life being asked about wrestling, whether he wants to talk about it or not, he found out that Rocky is returning for the SmackDown show on Friday. Because Punk guested on the Kevin and Bean show on K-Rock yesterday, and he got onto the topic of the People's Champ, saying, "Remember the last time The Rock was in the Staples Center? Let's do it again. When is this show? Next Friday? Dwayne, call me Friday." Now, this is a reference to when The Rock appeared in front of the WWE crowd at the Staples Center during shooting for Fighting With My Family back in 2017. He was running the crowd through some fun chants when they took over and started chanting CM Punk, Quel Supreme. In one masterful bit of crowd management, Rocky gave Punk a call right there in the center of a WWE ring, which you just wouldn't think he would do. It went to voicemail, but it actually was a really, really fun moment. I don't know though, don't just call him this time though, Rock. Call him out. I mean, the whole thing is unlikely to happen though, but it just adds fuel to that fire that was stoked earlier this week when it was reported by PW Insider that Punk had tried out for a hosting spot on FS1's new talk show, WWE Backstage. CM Punk to AEW confirmed. Sorry, that was just old habits. CM Punk back to WWE. It doesn't have the same ring to it. Thank you for watching, and thank you to all of the names scrolling away beneath me for being our awesome pledge hammers on Patreon. Remember to come back later and hang out with Ollie and Luke to watch the first ever AEW Dynamite and see if this bold new era of wrestling gets off to a flying start or whether it's like a Darby Allin coffin drop onto the floor. I've been El Fagador, and that was Lucha.